Welcome back to Your 401k Sucks. My name is Leanne, and this is part two. We, in the last video, went in great detail through the drawing you see on the screen here, where we talked about how a 401k works and why it sucks. We talked through the max tax line. So quick review if you missed it. We talked about a 40-year-old who is putting money into their 401k. And if they have a salary of 123,000 and they are doing the maximum investment into their 401k, what happens is they put that money into the 401k before tax. And so if we take this $23,000 off of their salary, that means in English this year, they are only going to pay tax on $100,000 of income because they deferred, that's the word, deferred the $23,000 into the 401k. But we talked about how you get that tax deduction out here when you're 40, but what you're really doing is you're kicking the tax bill down the road. And we talked about what happens when you hit the tax bill between age 59 and a half and 75 and what happens when you die. We talked about how this is a maximum tax line. In other words, you get your tax deduction out here, but you get hosed in taxes over your lifetime. So without going through that at all again, there's another video, you should go back and watch it. It's very helpful, very informative. So there's more than one way to build a retirement portfolio. And in my practice, we like to do holistic financial and tax planning. So I find that people love to learn this stuff. And when they see it, they start to see a different strategy, a strategy of like, let's just not do what everybody else does and just only put money into our 401k and hope that it works out. Instead, we're being more thoughtful and strategic. So let's go back to our drawing here and talk about the tax-free line. Now, the tax-free line is something that everybody wants to have because it means that the money we put here, we don't pay taxes on today or later. So the tax-free line on our drawing actually does not have to hit the wall of shame here at 59 and a half, like our max tax line did. And it does not hit the wall of shame at age 75 either. And what we put on the tax-free line also, when we die, doesn't have negative impact or consequence like RMDs do for our inheritors. So the tax-free line is otherwise called the Roth IRA. So now here's the deal about the Roth IRA. There's all kinds of rules about it. So the first rule that we have to understand is that the most you can put into it is $7,000 a year. If you are married, then you can put $7,000 a year into a tax-free investment, and your spouse can put $7,000 a year into their tax-free investment. And if you're over 50, you get to do something called catch-up contributions, where you get to do an extra $1,000. So keeping it simple, we can put $7,000 into this investment. Now, the key to this is that when we put the money into the investment, we are doing that with money that's already been taxed. So we go to work, we get our paycheck, the money that actually shows up in our bank account is net of tax, right? It's with those dollars that we put into this Roth IRA and we actually invest it. And unlike the previous line down here, where we talked about we put our money into this investment, and 100% of the dollars as we kick the tax bill down the road are subject to ordinary income tax, not just the profit, but also the dollars that you put in. So that's so painful. I hate 401ks. The tax-free line is where we like to go from a strategic standpoint. But here's the deal. If the IRS has decided that you and your spouse are a little too rich, and their definition, it's 2024 right now, their definition of that is that if you and your spouse make between $161,000 and $240,000 combined adjusted gross income, they've decided you're just too rich. You're too rich. You can't do it. So I see people come in here all the time that have 2 six-figure incomes. And let's face it, 2 six-figure incomes isn't what it used to be. I can remember 16 years ago when I started my practice and I started to see people coming in making $89,000, $90,000 a year. And I'm like, you guys are doing good. But with how inflation has made the price of everything so expensive, it takes about 2 six-figure incomes to kind of make ends meet these days. And so what I'm trying to help you see is that $161,000 for two people working is not that much money. It's like two people making like $85,000 a year. And the IRS says, yeah, you're too rich. You can't. Nope. You don't get to do this. So that creates problems when we're doing creative financial planning and tax planning for our future. So if you make too much, you simply cannot do this. You simply can't. In another video, I will talk about Roth conversions, and that's how we take money out of our 401k and we convert it up to this line, but we're going to do that another time. So the tax-free line is awesome because all the money that we put into it after we've paid taxes out here today. And one of my questions I like to ask people is, in 30 years, do you think our tax rates are going to be higher or lower? And almost 100% of the time, people tell me, oh, yeah, for sure, our taxes are going up in the future. So one of the benefits of doing this tax-free line is, in theory, we're taking dollars that have been taxed at a lower tax bracket, we're investing it into a vehicle like a Roth IRA, and all of the growth and all of the money that we put into it grows all years tax-free. So when the Hey Leanne phone call comes and people are like, hey, Leanne, I want to remodel my kitchen, like we talked about in the last video. When we do that, we're turning a spigot on, and 100% of the money that we take out of this, we just take out as a Roth distribution, and it is not taxable. And that makes a big, huge difference. Think of it this way. If we buy a house for $300,000 and it now can only be sold for $150,000, we're looking at a $150,000 loss, right? That's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And unfortunately, with how the stock market works at times, there might be times when you need money in your future and you're like, you know what? We got to do some things. We got to pay some medical bills, or we've got to go on a vacation, or we're doing a remodel. We are turning we're turning investments into cash. And we're doing so when the stock market is in the toilet. If we're doing it down here on the max tax line, that is a double whammy, because now we're selling it underwater and we still have to pay ordinary income tax on it, even though we lost money. It's horrible. So with a Roth IRA option in our future, your financial planner, hopefully you have a good one, would say, oh, okay, in the future, I don't know. When you call me and say, I need $25,000, I'm going to be looking strategically at where's the most tax efficient place to take money and send it to you. And so having a Roth IRA or having a tax-free line, having that money available to you for your future is so important, because it allows you to get the money you need in your future without having to worry about, if the stock market's in the toilet, you're losing money on the transaction plus paying tax. So creating these tax-free pots of money are very important. It's a very important part of financial planning, and it's a very strategic part of thinking about your future. Now, you have probably heard of something, or maybe you haven't, called the Roth 401k. We're going to talk about that right now. Roth 401k. Now, the Roth 401k is cool. It's a different little creature. It's kind of a hybrid between the traditional 401k and the Roth IRA. So if you're a person who is in that high income bracket between 161,000 or adjusted gross income as a family, 161 to 240, then this is really your only option for funding a Roth. So within a Roth 401k, essentially what happens is the 401k is kind of a box. Let's just think of it like this. It's a box. And that box can be split into two little parts. Part one over here is, we're going to just say, the max tax. And then part two over here is the tax-free. The most that any person can put into a Roth 401k or just a traditional 401k is this $23,000 that we talked about earlier in the video. So you can take your maximum of $23,000 that you can put into a 401k, and you get to split it between these two boxes. And so it's all one thing right here, but you can split it between the two. So you might work with your financial planner, and we might say, okay, we're going to put 50% in the tax-free bucket, and we're going to put 50% in the max tax bucket. But what I want you to understand is it's all one bucket called a Roth 401k. What I find that I'm doing more often than not with my clients, depending on their situation, obviously you need to talk to your own advisor, but I am often saying to them, okay, what we're going to do is if your employer matches 5%, then we're going to go ahead and do the 5% match into the max tax bucket. We're going to do that. But then what we're going to do is we're just going to let them tax our paycheck, and then we're going to put the rest of it over here into the tax-free bucket. Actually, the short-term tax deduction that we get when we put money out here actually doesn't help us in the long term. It actually hurts us in the long term. So if you work someplace that offers a Roth 401k, then you want to absolutely go sit down with an HR person and talk through it. Don't listen to the rhetoric out there that you just need to max out your 401k blindly. No, because you're actually creating a tax bill, a tax problem for yourself in the future. If you can stop, pause, and think right now and go, okay, what are my options? If you have this option, I want to really encourage you to take it. It's a wonderful investment vehicle that is just starting to become commonplace. So if you don't have an employer that offers that, you can open up your Roth IRA anywhere. I custody at Schwab. My clients and I work with Schwab. You can do it at Fidelity. You can do it almost anywhere. But just know that this is one of the most important things that you can invest in. So when people come to me and say, where do I start? Like, what do I need to do? This is where we start, and this is what we need to do.